Perry Marshall is one of the most expensive business strategists in the world. He's endorsed in Forbes and Inc. magazine. Clients in 300 industries value his capacity to integrate sales, technology, art, and psychology. His reinvention of the Pareto principle is published in the Harvard Business Review. He's the author of many books. His Google AdWords book laid the foundation for the $100 billion pay-per-click industry. He wrote the world's best-selling book on Facebook advertising. And now he has a new book out called Detox, Declutter, and Dominate: How to Excel by Elimination. I'm looking forward to hearing all about it. So, Perry, welcome to the Soar to Success podcast. I'm so excited that you're here with us today.
I'm glad to be here, and we're talking about morning routines and how to set up your day to really be successful over a very long period of time and be successful right away. So
let's get started with that. So tell us about morning routines.
Well, so my book is called Detox Declutter Dominate, and it's got 7 steps that over the last 20 years I've come to the conclusion these are the 7 things. There's a million things, obviously, but these are the 7. And the first one is use Renaissance time to gain discernment and clarity. And the worst way that you can start your day is you reach across to your nightstand and you pull a device in your bed and you start scrolling through something, whether it's emails, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, news, all of that stuff. That is the worst way.
Well, can I just stop you there? I mean, isn't that against all the rules anyway, to have your device in your bedroom?
Well, yeah, I had an argument with my wife about this, and it's in my bedroom, but it's certainly not in my bed. And so really, when you start your day reacting to other people, it's all downhill from there.
Mm-hmm.
You need to start your day proactive, and you need to start your day in a protected spiritual space.
Okay.
So I suggest that the way you should start your day, and the way a lot of my clients start my day, and people are constantly talking about this because I've convinced a lot of people to do this, and they rave about it. You roll out of bed, get a shower, cup of coffee, and then you go sit down somewhere with a notebook and you pull yourself together. And maybe you have some inspirational reading. I say you should read something written before Gutenberg every day. That's a good way to make sure you're not on the nanosecond Twitter treadmill of things that only are completely irrelevant 10 minutes from now, right? Because if something was written before Gutenberg, think about it. It means it survived the sacking of Rome and the burning of Alexandria, and it was hidden in clay pots in some cave, and it was written by hand and copied by hand, and only the very, very, very most important stuff ever got copied and copied and copied like that, right?
Yeah.
And so if it survived all of that for thousands of years when there was no digital easy everything, that is the good stuff, right?
Right.
And it's actually very important because it orients you towards things that last a long time. I think the biggest waste of time is to start a business that only lasts for 6 months.
Yeah, right.
Right? You don't want to do that. So I pray, I meditate, I read, I write, I free write. If I had a dream, if I had an idea in the shower, I get it all on the piece of paper and I dump it out. And I have the space and the total permission to sort it out. And then and only after I've gotten my inner world sorted out and my priorities figured out, and I've probably looked at my calendar and looked at my day and thought about, like this morning, it's like, okay, so I've got an appointment with Pat. What am I going to talk about? And you think all that stuff through before, and then you hit the ground running.
Yeah.
But then, and this gets to some of the other, really this gets to step 3, earn $1,000 an hour, 1 hour a day with 80-20 time. You
Yeah.
don't
So
start
tell
your
us how we
day.
do that.
You don't. You don't start your day by reacting to other people and putting out fires. You figure out what is the highest value thing that I can do today, and I'm going to do that, and still not get into all of the reaction and emails and people pulling my strings.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I talk about $1,000 an hour, most people initially react like, oh, that sounds hypey. Hang on a second. So I want you to imagine your name is Helen and you work at a dental office and you're a receptionist and you make $15 an hour, right?
Right.
$30,000 a year. That's not $1,000 an hour, right?
Right.
Okay. And the phone rings. Now the dentist has spent advertising money. Maybe it costs $10 just for that one click on Google.
Right.
That actually, and it made a phone call, not to mention the other clicks that didn't lead to any phone calls, right? So really that phone call cost hundreds or thousands of dollars an hour.
Yeah.
The person wants $5,000 of dental work and she puts them on hold. And they hold for 2 minutes. And then she picks it up and they're gone.
Yeah. Right.
She just lost $5,000 in 2 minutes. That is $150,000 an hour.
Yeah.
So a $15 an hour person loses $150,000 an hour in 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ever let anybody tell you that your time isn't worth $1,000 an hour, because it every day there are seconds or minutes or 10 or 15 minute chunks where whatever you did was extremely valuable, but most people have never really thought about it. Right. And I have a chart about halfway through the book, and it's got so this is a $10 an hour column, and these are things like vacuuming the floor and taking out the trash and mowing the lawn and shoveling snow and shuffling papers, right? And then there's $100 an hour tasks like helping a customer solve a problem or talking to a qualified sales prospect. And then there's $1,000 an hour work, and there's $10,000 an hour work. And you can plainly see, that's true. Like, if you solve that kind of a problem, that is $10,000 an hour work. Yeah. And that is the work that you do after you do your Renaissance time in the morning. And that's how you accomplish more by noon. And I want you to notice it started with open space, doing what most people think is self-indulgent, wasting time.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you're talking about that, does it vary every day? So the amount of time that you're spending in meditation and prayer and reading and all that can vary based on the day?
Yeah. I always make sure I give it at least a half an hour. Now, I think that's probably a lot for a lot of people. I think 20 minutes is a good number. Now, for me, it's usually more than an hour. It's often 2. Uh-huh. That's kind of like somebody saying, oh, well, I run 3 miles every day, or I ride my bike 10 miles. Well, most, you don't do that all at once. You kind of build up to it, right?
Yeah, right.
But it is like exercise or anything else. Like once you get into that groove, it's like, oh, I really like this. This really helps me, right? And so you can adjust it however you want, but the point is having some minimum amount, like 15 or 20 minutes. In my book, it's absolutely non-negotiable. I have not missed a day in 7 years, not once. I think it's the most important thing that you ever do.
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely right about that. And why do people resist it so much?
Well, because we have a work ethic that says as long as Pat looks busy, she's not a bad gal. Okay? And like our whole notion of work is basically looking busy.
Mm-hmm.
Or like just like being in motion. Oh, well, as long as I'm driving the van somewhere, or as long as I'm on the phone, or as long as I'm typing on my computer, and it doesn't recognize the value of whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it also doesn't recognize the value of open space where you actually have time to think. I've never seen a time in my life where people had more things to think about and were thinking less.
Mm-hmm.
And most people are thinking about things that they have no control over whatsoever. Like none of us have any control about counting ballots.
Yes, right.
I ain't counting them. I'm not in charge of the people counting them. If there's fraud somewhere, I can't fix it, right?
Right.
So why would you obsess, right? And so like we've all only got a certain amount of energy and a certain amount of focus and a certain amount of attention.
Mm-hmm.
So this is so important. And when you reclaim that part of your life, you cannot believe how different you feel, how different your day goes, how much more productive you are.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually, I have time to do stuff. I had a guy who started adopting these habits, and I did a workshop, and he came up to me. He said, Perry, my son came up to me 2 weeks ago. He's 16 years old. He said, Dad, you're listening to me now. The guy teared up.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, I was so like just caught up in all this stuff. I wasn't even listening to my son. Like,
Mm-hmm.
well, hey, that's a lot of people. So it helps your family and your relationships too. It's not just your work.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So taking the first step, I mean, people resist change so much. Like, what do you suggest they do to get themselves to take that first step?
Well, start it. Tomorrow morning when you wake up, you're not checking your email and you're not checking news or social media or anything. And you get your tea or your coffee and you sit down with a notebook and you just start writing.
Mm-hmm.
Write what? Write anything that comes into your mind. It's like, I had a dream. Oh, there was this idea in the shower. And you just do it. And you block that out. And you're like, this is non-negotiable. And I am not letting anybody mess this up.
Yeah. Good. That sounds great. Let's get everybody doing that. I think our world would be much happier if that were the case.
Trust me, you'll be a lot happier. Your coworkers will be a lot happier. It also enforces a certain amount of respect for other people to have for your space.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, especially if you're an entrepreneur. Now, I think this is true of everybody, but especially an entrepreneur. You can't just react to everything that comes your way. You can't have every notification turned on your phone. You shouldn't be getting emails for Facebook to tell you that somebody liked your picture. Why are you letting that stuff happen? You should massively unsubscribe from emails, like remorselessly.
Yeah.
That'll change your life all by itself.
Right.
Probably 50 to 80% of the emails you're getting, you shouldn't be getting.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you.
Set them on fire. Unsubscribe, 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 unsubscribe. The subtitle of the book is How to Excel by Elimination. 80-20 is about what you don't do. 80-20 is about what you say no to.
Yeah.
Before it's about what you say yes to.
Yeah. What I like about your book is that it's really short, right?
36 pages.
36 pages. Was that by design?
Oh, yes. So a year ago, I'd been working on this for months, and it was 50,000 words, which is about 150 pages.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent it to my friend Robert Strobe, and he goes, Perry, I'll be back. Okay. And a few weeks later, he sends it back to me. He chopped it down to 8,000 words. He goes, Perry, I deleted the 80% of this book that you don't need.
So your 80-20 rule.
Yes. Like he did 80-20 on the 80-20 guy. And he said, okay, and I'm going to do something else. So give me another couple of weeks. And he goes and he gets a graphic designer. I mean, he did this on his own initiative. It was the strangest thing. He is a consultant who works with it. I was not paying him to do this. It was like he just saw. He had some vision. He was like, no, Perry, it should be like this. He goes and gets a graphic designer. And he illustrates all of these concepts in the book with all these pictures. So this is like a picture workbook. Yeah. It's not really like any business book you ever bought.
Yeah.
And so it's got infographics and illustrations and charts and graphs, 36 pages. And really, it is the most important things that I've learned in the last 20 years, crunched down to 7 things.
Wow. I can't wait to read it. Sounds really fantastic. So tell me like maybe 1 or 2 more of those 7 principles.
Okay, step 2 is make your business twice as profitable with 80-20 focus. So most people have heard of 80-20. They have some sort of idea that 20% of the people make 80% of the money, or 20% of the customers spend 80% of the money. That's true. It's much bigger than that. It's not just a business, like MBA school sort of thing. It is a fundamental law of cause and effect. It is fundamental law that this is like the size of craters on the moon and how much water is flowing through the Mississippi River. It's to that level that 20% of all causes produce 80% of all effects. And so it's in every spreadsheet. It's in every email box. It's in every advertising account. It's all over the place. But most people just sort of let it happen to them. When you're aware of it, you can predict the future and you can direct your efforts to things that you know are most likely to produce a much higher amount of leverage. So I'll give you 2 examples. So I'm going to give you an example that's going to make you money and an example that's going to save you money, right? So the make you money example is what I call the principle of the $2,700 espresso machine. Okay, so let's say that you have a Starbucks, and let's say you only sell cups of coffee and you don't sell anything else. And 1,000 people this week buy a $5 latte. Okay, so you sold $5,000 of lattes. Well, the 80-20 rule says 20% of those people want to give you 80% of your money, and 20% of the 20% want to give you 80% of the 80%. Why do they want to do that? Because the money is burning a hole in their pocket and they have an itch. The itch is called a caffeine buzz. It's the espresso, okay? So 80-20 says it's just about as predictable as gravity that if 1,000 people will spend $5 on a latte, one of them will spend $2,700 on a stainless steel gleaming espresso machine. It's almost a law of physics that will happen. All you have to do is have the espresso machine. So you got $5,000 from 1,000 people, and then you got $2,700 from one person. And you got $7,700, not $5,000. And then you work out the profits. And I want you to notice the one person who bought was in the same group that already bought. You didn't need new people. Right. You're selling to existing people. Okay. So 80-20 tells you, and this is especially true with small businesses. The book comes with an online calculator. Okay. And you can actually put the 1,000 espressos in there and you push a button and it'll show you like, well, so this many people would spend $300 and this many people would spend $1,000. You know, there's somebody who would take their husband on a $10,000 Mediterranean espresso cruise ship.
Yeah, right.
Okay, because people are like this. Okay, it's a law of physics that if there is an espresso itch out there, the willingness to scratch it is exponential with certain people. Mm-hmm. I did a seminar in Florida, and I had about 300 people in the room, and I said, everybody stand up if you own shoes. All right, so everybody stands up, and I go, if you own less than 5, sit down. Less than 10, less than 20, and I kept doubling the number. Uh-huh. So, Pat, guess how many shoes I got to before they all were sitting down?
2,000?
Oh, well, that's a little high. It was 800. There was a lady in that room who had 800 pair of shoes. Now, that is the 80-20 rule on exhibition. Okay, and all groups of customers are like this. And then I did domain names. Well, there was one guy in the room that owned 5 million domain names.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I saw a video of you doing it that started with watches on your Amazon page. So same idea, right?
Yes. Okay, so you can probably increase your revenue and your profits by adding an espresso machine, which is really just sell results, not procedures. Like if they were buying $100 set of dog training videos, well, there's people that'll spend $2,000 for some elaborate dog coaching or workshop or camp or whatever. Okay.
Yeah, and the key is that you already know them. They're right. Your person. They already bought something.
Right. You already know them. So I told you I'd get into, well, how do you save money? So there's this thing called the 21-20 rule. And it says that 20% of your clients generate 120% of your profits, but then the bad clients suck 20% down, the 120 down to 100 to what you actually made last year. Okay, so like if you're a tax person and you do tax returns, there's a guy, he pays you like $300 and he gives you like 8 crates of receipts and disorganized papers and you can't get yourself together.
Yeah.
You spend 19 hours doing $300 worth of work. Mm-hmm. You should fire him.
Yeah,
okay?
Exactly.
You don't have to be mean about it. You just send a nice little letter that says, you know, we've had to let go of some of our accounts and we're changing our focus and we had a board of directors meeting over Thanksgiving and okay, however you want to say it. Okay, but there is no law of the universe that says you need to keep this guy.
Yeah.
And I'll guarantee you, I mean, like for everybody, somewhere between 2% and 20% of your clients are losing you money. You are shipping boxes with dollar bills taped to every box. Mm-hmm. Every time you sell that product, perform that service that client. Mm-hmm. If you get rid of 3% of your clients, 3% of your product line, 3% of your employees, like these are the ones you know who they are. Now there's a bunch of other ones you haven't even figured out. Did you know we're losing money on that product every time we sell it? You discontinue the product, you raise the price by 50%.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so like, and this is everybody. I'm not like, this is me, this is you, this is everyone. It's almost impossible for this to not be true. So those are 2 parts of step 2. It'll totally change your business.
Yeah. Well, I think people need to buy your book and implement these things because we're getting ready to start 2021 and they should do that right now so that they can start out without those people who suck their time.
Yes.
Don't make them money. Yeah.
And so I want to start a new renaissance. I want to start a business renaissance. We already started one. I want you to be in on it. Like most people are sleepwalking through life. You don't have to.
Yeah.
It's an adventure. It's awesome. Like wake up and don't let everybody, most people, it's almost like they've got 100 hypodermic needles stuck in each arm with all of these tubes coming out of them. And they're like dragging a hospital bed down the street with all of these distractions and pressure. Like, you don't need CNN. You don't need those Facebook friends. You don't need to be arguing with these people on Twitter. You don't need to be reacting to all these emails at 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
It can wait till 1 o'clock.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Well, it's been such a joy talking to you, and our time is just about up, but I wanted to talk about the moats. So have you been interspersing what we've been talking about with those moats that we can build our business?
So you need a moat around your castle. Like if people could just come and take your stuff, that sucks. Okay. And I've helped thousands and thousands and thousands of businesses get off the ground. And I think it's easy to start a business. What's hard is making a business last a long time.
Right.
And so there's all kinds of moats. So there are 20th century moats and 21st century moats. So 20th century moats are things like robots and factories and land and buildings and capital and like all that kind of stuff, right? Like, Toyota has a pretty good moat around their castle, and it's mostly the fact that it costs an awful lot of money to build cars and build car factories. And it's awful lot of difficulty to go build dealerships and stuff, right? So those are 20th century moats. Mm-hmm. But then there's 21st century moats. Let me give you an example. Uber attracts more riders, which attracts more drivers, which lowers the wait time, which attracts more riders, which attracts more drivers, which lowers the wait time. And once Uber got going, you get a ride in 5 to 10 minutes in any major city in the world. How on earth is any taxi company going to compete with that?
Right.
Okay, that is harder than going up against Toyota. Right? But how would you do it?
Yeah.
Because this is called network effect. Now, what I talk about in this book is network effect for mere mortals. What Uber did cost like $1 billion of venture capital to get off the ground. But network effect for mere mortals is what ordinary, regular people can do. And I'll give you one example before we wrap.
Okay.
So I've got a client named Mark McShirley, and he owns a company called Roof Simple.
Okay.
They fix roofs. Okay. So this is not Uber. This is not eBay. This is not Snapchat, right? This is roofs. But Mark said, I am going to be ruthless about reducing friction for the customer. And I am going to examine every last thing, every interaction that we ever have with a customer, from the very first click on our website, to the phone calls, to the roofing crew, to getting the check. And we are going to shave every last bit of complexity and friction out of this. We are going to make it a pleasure to buy a roof. Which almost sounds weird, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But that's the genius of it. It's like, well, nobody would really think of it that way, but he did.
Yeah.
He made it a pleasure. And he designed the whole process so that at the end of it, the customer would give him a 5-star Google review. Mm-hmm. So they are based in Washington, D.C. They have 300 Google reviews. Wow. They were two guys with $600,000 of revenue 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, if you have 300 Google reviews, 4.8 stars, and your competitor has 6 Google reviews, 4 stars.
Yeah, right.
Who's going to get the business? How much, or let's put it this way, because I wrote a book on Google advertising.
Yeah.
How much is the Google ad for the 5-star 300 people versus the 4-star 6? I'm going to guess his clicks are 50 to 60% less expensive.
Yeah.
And reviews attract reviews, because good reviews attract good customers who write more reviews.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what I mean by network effect for mere mortals. And there's about 12 of those in this book. And you can read about them in about 2 pages, but you actually have a manual for what you're going to be doing for the next 2 years, which means you don't need to go read 75 more business books. Okay. That's why I wrote this 36-page book. It's like, these are the 7 things.
Yeah. Awesome. Excellent. So people can find the book on Amazon?
Yeah. It's called Detox Declutter Dominate, How to Excel by Elimination. It's by Perry Marshall and Robert Scrobe. It's about $9 in the US. It's the best $9 you'll ever spend. 36 illustrated pages. The book's got about 4.8 stars. People love the book. You can read the reviews. I had an attorney who's a very experienced business guy tell me, he goes, "This is the single best business book I have ever read." And he's about 65. He's read a lot of books. So you will not be disappointed. Detox, Declutter, Dominate.
Great. And can people learn more about you online somewhere?
Yeah, go to perrymarshall.com and subscribe to our email series. It's called the 30-Day Street MBA.
Okay.
And, we'll slap you in the face in the very first lesson, and you'll be off to the races.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being with me today. It was really fun chatting with you. I enjoyed it so much.
Thank you, Pat. It was a pleasure. And I wish you a very nice holiday.
You too. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Soar to Success podcast. For more insights into growing your business or improving your quality of life, visit soartosuccessmagazine.com and subscribe to the Soar to Success podcast on iTunes.